Live.
Good morning, everybody.
Headquarters of RT America in our nation's capital. This is the news with Rick Sanchez.
Joining us now is one of the most prolific real estate investors with years of experience in this field, Jason Hartman from jasonhartman.com is where you can find him. Joins us now to talk about this. This is a classic argument, Jason. I mean, should the government leave well enough alone and let the market make the determination? Or should they get in there and say, no, sorry, you're not allowed to collect rents? And what's the effect on the poor guy who wants to collect rent because that's what he lives off of?
Yeah, it's a great question, Rick. I don't think the government should get involved. I'm a believer in the market, and I think the market can work things out. Sometimes it's slow, it's not perfect, but I think it's better than government intervention. However, we have what we have. Now, the CDC moratorium, the National Apartment Association is suing over that one, and we have these in different places. But remember, all real estate is local, and some of the jurisdictions vary quite a bit from others. So in these landlord unfriendly markets, the left-wing type of environments like New York City, where Trinity just reported from, that's going to be a tough slog there, in addition to all of the other challenges New York City is facing. In many parts of the country, this is kind of a non-problem. A lot of people are talking about it, but it just doesn't seem to really be something that's ending up as a problem for very many landlords at all.
Last time you and I spoke, we talked about the fact that people were actually going out there and buying more houses. People were leaving big cities. So we've got this map that I want to put up, and I want to share it with our audience, and then I want you to react to it. This is about the bubble possibilities, right? This is where the bubbles might burst and who has the highest chances of having a bubble burst. Chicago, interestingly enough, very low, negative 0.66. Vancouver, 137. This is North America. Toronto, the highest at 196. LA, 1.16. And then New York is only at 0.56. Explain to our viewers what this means and why Chicago is so low and Toronto so high.
Right. Rick, Chicago is actually a very low-priced, what I'll call trophy city. I know Chicago is not without its problems, believe me, and the state of Illinois has its problems. But as far as a city that is sort of a world-class city, if you will, if someone's visiting from Europe and they're visiting the U.S. back when people used to travel, you remember, they'll go to L.A., San Francisco, New York, and what's on the list next? It's probably Chicago. And Chicago is a very inexpensive city. All of those other cities are very expensive. So that's the reason it gets some slack on that.
So the more expensive you are, the more likely you are that you're going to have a bubble then, right?
Absolutely. Housing overall, when you look at median price housing, it's actually cheaper on an inflation-adjusted monthly payment perspective because the interest rates are low, and we had some inflation since 2006. A house today is about $650 a month cheaper than it was in 2006.
That's amazing. That is amazing the way that thing is working right now. Thanks so much, Jason. Thanks so much, as usual, for joining us and sharing the information with you. jasonhartman.com. Thanks.
We bought our first property in April 2016 in Georgia, and it was a great learning experience. We started going to events, been to a couple of Meet the Masters and several JHUs, and the best thing, one of the greatest things that I could just advise people is to show up to the events, not only for the great education material, but for the networking opportunities that you will get. They're priceless, and the cost of these events it's so cheap, and investing in your own future is so invaluable. So I just recommend everybody get involved and do that.
So it's fun, and I followed his lead. I had no idea. We were corporate rats, so we were definitely doing the 401k, thing that we were taught, and just was amazing to meet a whole bunch of investors and learn after we realized we could not retire on what we had put away, that really real estate was our ticket.
We want to control our freedom, and that's through real estate is the best way for us.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Show with Jason Hartman.
You're about to learn a new slant on investing, some exciting techniques, and fresh new approaches to the world's most historically proven asset class that will enable you to create more wealth and freedom than you ever thought possible. Jason is a genuine self-made multimillionaire who's actually been there and done it. He's a successful investor, lender, developer, and entrepreneur who's owned properties in 11 states, had hundreds of tenants, and been involved in thousands of real estate transactions. This program will help you follow in Jason's footsteps on the road to your financial independence day. You really can do it. And now, here's your host, Jason Hartman, with the complete solution for real estate investors.
Good morning, everybody. We are live again, live on Sundays. There's Evan. He's excited.
I'm so excited.
Evan from Chicago. What did you think of my comments on Chicago? Is that an accurate view of the situation with Chicago, in your opinion? Being a Chicagoan yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Although we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick, but yes. As we've talked about before, Chicago is kind of a combination of like New York and Indianapolis. You know, parts of it are really high end, beautiful condos on the Magnificent Mile, you know, out where I live on the North Shore, beautiful. And then there's parts that are, you know, very solid working class housing. And it's great if you can find the right property.
And then there are parts that are controlled by hoodlums. Don't forget that.
Yeah. It is sad.
But you know, that's what's interesting, is that every city in the world is like that. I mean, you know, what major city on planet Earth doesn't have huge crime problems? Now, Chicago, it may be worse than many, but it's so strange, Evan, how they really stay put in their small neighborhood. That's always just shocked me about human beings, that how they don't really leave their neighborhood very much, you know, as bad as it might be.
Yeah, well, you know, the last time Chicago had a Republican mayor, not to jump into politics too quick, the 1920s.
Oh,
that was
my
the last time.
gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the city's got its share of issues. It's an amazing. I mean, there's something called the Chicago Democrats. So Richard J. Daley would be a Republican today. I mean, he built, you know, very low, you know, low taxes and so forth. But
Richard Daley was like, you know, the whole Chicago 7 story, which, by the way, I have not watched that documentary or movie. I'm not sure which. But, oh, by the way, folks, I don't want to forget, please comment and make sure you like and subscribe if you're watching YouTube. But comment and let us know where you're watching from. We always already know where people are located.
We're already getting so many comments. People are saying, hi, guys. David Nelson is here, who was that beautiful lady in the video?
His wife. That's your wife, David.
So there's already a lot of comments, people asking about Chicago. We're going to get to all those questions, but in the meanwhile, people leave a comment, tell us where you're from, so we can get an idea. Oh, NYC, good, yep, good. My tinfoil hat's here. I know you.
Tinfoil hat is a regular listener. Yeah. Reveal your identity, unless you're afraid that the bad guys will come and get you.
Yeah.
By the way, I heard where was I? I was watching a movie preview this morning for this really scary movie, scary for men. It's called, maybe you've seen it. It's called Dream Lover. And it's with the gorgeous, oh my gosh, she's so, just drooling over her. She's so hot. Majin Amick. Is that how you say her name? Anyway, it's an old movie, but I was watching the trailer for that this morning. I was thinking maybe I got to watch this again. They showed a scene of the husband, who's the main character in the movie, and of course with the nightmare wife. And his friend says to him, you know, sometimes it's not paranoia, it's just enhanced awareness. So I like that. So my tinfoil hat, there you go, in Seattle.
Good. Enhanced awareness.
We
got several people from Virginia and Bend, Oregon, and California, and Minnesota, and where else?
Well, I'll go down it. So we got Juan saying hi. We got Harlan saying hi. Kim, hey, good morning, Kim. Bill, Juan, okay, Juan's got a question. We'll get back to that. David, we know David and Gina are in Folsom, but they are moving to Idaho. I think
Smart.
they are. I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking too soon, but at least they were looking at U-Haul trailers. I know that because got that. And then Juan is just asking about Chicago. He's not in Chicago necessarily. So Chicago 7. Kim is saying Juan is in NYC. Tinfoil hats in Seattle. And Kim is in Eastern Shore of Virginia. Omar is in Bend, Oregon. What else we got there, Evan?
We got David. Yes, he's moving to Idaho in January 2027. We got David Lopez. Didn't say where he's from. We got Bill Brown, who's from, the Metroplex in Minnesota. Yeah, I've heard of that. I don't know if I've been there. But yeah, we got people all over.
And David's in Los Angeles, and good stuff. LA is my hometown, and now, David, you need to escape LA because it's a disaster, as is the state of California and the state of New York. But we might touch on that. So
we've never talked about that before.
No, we never talk about that stuff. Yeah. And Stanislav, cool name, by the way, is in Memphis. Oh, but moving to LA. Are you?
No,
we got to talk you out of that. Please do not move to LA. Okay. Do not move to LA. And Harlan is in Toronto. Toronto's a great city. Don't buy any property there, though. Total bubble. We just talked about that on the little news clip we played. Stacy is in Louisiana. And yeah, good stuff.
Wonderful.
Okay, what were we saying?
Well, why don't we talk a little bit before we answer questions? Do you want to touch a little bit about supply and where we can find good deals right now?
Yeah, let's give everybody an update of what's going on in the market. But since everybody thought it was so funny last time, I thought I would just share this again. I posted this on a Throwback Thursday picture. This was, I think, 19 years ago. So I was 10 in that picture, of course. And that was on Orange County News Channel in Orange County, California. I've been getting some of my videos digitized. And so I grabbed a screenshot off of one. It's just super funny to see that. One thing people may not know about me, I don't know, maybe it's just true of everybody. As the years go by, at least myself, I'll speak of, I'm getting a lot more sentimental. Is that true with you, Evan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love looking at old videos and pictures and things. Yeah. Especially now during the pandemic, as we've been home more, you kind of get reminded of what's most important. And, maybe we have more time on our hands, but absolutely.
Yeah. Good stuff. But this prompted me because I realized, like, where did all my hair go? Which is, I sat through 8 years of an Obama administration, and Comrade Obama kept telling us we're not in a recession, yet my forehead kept getting bigger, and there was definitely a recession going on in the hairline. And then I saw this picture of Elon Musk, and I thought, what is he screwing around with, this interplanetary exploration, global internet, Mars missions, electric cars, neuro implants, which that's super scary. When he just really should release the most important secret humanity really wants to know, which is how you get your hair back.
How did he do that? Yep. Yeah, he could make a fortune. Not that he needs it now, but
he's holding out on us, isn't he?
So true.
Elon is holding out. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, welcome everybody. Of course, the website, jasonhartman.com. Be sure to see our terms of service and all that good stuff. And if you want to call us on the phone, on the good old fashioned telephone in the United States only, number 1-800-HARTMAN. And we do want to talk about this, Evan, but you wanted to talk about supply. So remind me to go back to this slide. Okay. So there you go. I think that's the slide you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm just, it can be, we often ask, where does value in real estate come from? And a lot of it goes down to basics, as you've taught, supply and demand. And the supply of the kind of houses that we invest in just keeps going down. And I think and it doesn't seem like there's any trend to reverse that. Builders, as you've taught, they don't want to build the cheap workforce housing that we invest in. So I think this chart's just going to continue to slide down. And it's a great predictor for the value of our investments. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. So remember, the most basic rule of economics, of course, is supply and demand. But it's more than that, of course. There's the supply and demand curves, right? And where they meet, you have a balanced market, okay? And we have a very imbalanced market right now. And remember that the fundamental value drivers of anything, everything in the world is essentially a commodity, okay? A commodity. Housing is a commodity. All the ingredients of a house are a commodity. Precious metals and soybeans and coffee are commodities. Hey, cheers. By the way, Evan, I know you got your coffee there, right? So
big one.
Cheers, everybody. This is cup number 3. I usually do only 2 in the morning. What is it? Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, and then my buddy Ryan Moran, they do the synchronized sip
at
the beginning of their live streams. So cool. So, of course, scarcity is a value driver, but also utility. Scarcity alone of any commodity is not enough. It's helpful, certainly, to drive value, but it's also got to have utility. And I would say that housing has the ultimate in those two things. It has scarcity and it has utility. I mean, it has massive utility. If you think about it from the beginning of time, that old cliche is, every human being has 3 basic needs. You can even look to Maslow's hierarchy of needs on this from your college psychology class. Essentially, although Maslow didn't say it this way, food, clothing, and shelter, right? Those are the 3 basic needs. And we say, buy that shelter, control it, own it, let them rent it from you. And so this chart is showing us that, back in 2016, and then we go to 17 and up to 2020, you can see that here is the US single family residence total available inventory weekly by year, right? So you see during the different really months of the year, but because the chart is monthly. And by the way, I have to show you all something. Do you know that there is only one name in every single year? Only one name. It's right here, Jason. Yeah.
That's good.
My name is in every year, but no other name is here. I guess ma'am, M-A-M, right?
JJ.
What is it?
JJ.
Oh, JJ. Okay, well, fair enough. Okay, yeah.
That is.
But anyway, yeah. So you got July, August, September, November, and every year, right? So we're coming to the end of the Jason era of the year here, but here you see the supply of homes has just plummeted. I mean, it's just nil, right? And this is driving an absolutely crazy market where we are seeing bidding wars, where we are seeing just a massive amount of competition for a very limited amount of supply. So
it's amazing how right it seems like when the pandemic when it first was speculated, you have like March and April where the supply goes up a little bit, and then in May people realize this is going to last a while. Home is the center of the universe. Boom! Starts going sliding down quickly.
Yeah,
really amazing.
It really does. So this is plummeting. Now, you mentioned something really important, Evan, and that is that you don't see anything changing this supply-demand dynamic. And I agree with you, but I do want to throw out one thing that I hear from skeptics occasionally. Not much. And you see this stuff float around on social media, and it's really kind of annoying at this point because I've been seeing it float around for well over 10 years. And it's all about like the 3D printed homes, right? And these home pods, the manufactured homes that you can buy on Amazon and stuff. And look at folks, I got really excited about this, and I researched this topic. And this stuff is nothing like it sounds. Now, there is a company in Austin that is getting a lot of press on the 3D printed home. Supposedly they can 3D print these houses very inexpensively. But, you know, folks, it it doesn't take very long to bring things to market nowadays. And I've been hearing about this stuff for over a decade. Where is it? Where is it? Where are all these incredibly cheap 3D printed homes? Where are all of the homes you can buy on Amazon? Which, by the way, I'll tell you about that one because Carmen and I researched this. Okay, we looked and we saw the $12,000 to $40,000 home on Amazon. It's a kit that they deliver to you, and first of all, it doesn't include a whole bunch of things. It's basically just a frame. Okay, it doesn't include fittings, plumbing, electrical, and it doesn't include one of the more expensive things, engineering and permitting. Okay, so by the time you do all of this, I mean, I remember talking with one of the companies on the phone, and the woman I was talking to kept saying, she was like bragging about it, and she kept saying, our product comes in at about the same cost of any new construction home that you would buy from a developer. And I said, well, what's the advantage then? I thought the whole advantage here was price. You were
Right.
competing on that these were an incredibly inexpensive alternative to solve the housing shortage. And I said, I finally asked her because she kept repeating this phrase, same price as a new home from a developer, a stick-built home. And and I said, well, what price is that per square foot by the time you're all in with engineering, plumbing, electrical, permitting, all of this stuff? And how long does it take to build? And it takes a long time. It's not like you set this up in a couple of days, right? Yeah, you put the frame up really fast, but you still have a million other things to do, right? HVAC, plumbing, heating, electrical, right? And so she said she finally answered my question because I asked like 3 4 times, and she says, well, the price per square foot on the finished product all in is about, you ready for this one? $200 per square foot.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
No good. No good at all. I mean, that like we have houses today that are way cheaper than $200 a square foot for
half.
traditional built homes in good neighborhoods without the stigma of a manufactured home. And I just want to go on the record again. I've said it many times on the podcast. I don't think it is right that there is a stigma against manufactured homes in this country, but for whatever reason there is. Maybe it's because a lot of the old ones were junky. Nowadays, they're not junky. Okay. I mean, some of these manufactured homes are pretty cool and high tech and they're nice, but the stigma's there and it's not going away anytime soon, I don't think. So, um, yeah.
Wow.
What do you
Wow. I agree with you. That's insane. I mean, why go through all that hassle? On one of the recent issues of the podcast, it was a flashback Friday, but you were talking with your mom about how crazy it was to build a huge home.
My mom's a real estate investor and
Yeah.
giant mansion owner. Yes.
Right, or Southern Mansion.
Yeah.
But the all the headaches that come from that, and I would say all the headaches, that come from building your own home, buying a new home. Why not just rent? As you've taught me, rent luxury, buy utility. We should be buying these homes that are existing, and then if you want to live in a fancy schmancy house, which is fine, rent it.
If you
Don't
can,
money.
the only caveat is I just want to share my last experience. When I moved to Florida 2.5 years ago, I just couldn't find any high-end rentals. I have a lot of low-end housing that other people rent from me, and that's great. And I wanted to rent a high-end home for myself again because I had achieved that very nicely in Arizona and moderately well when I lived in Las Vegas for a year and a half. And I just couldn't find anything in the what I my theory on that was that it was really the Airbnb trend sucked a lot of those high-end homes out of the market and people converted them into short-term rentals. Those would be long-term high-end home rentals. So, that may change. Obviously, Airbnb is having a very rough time in many places right now, so that could definitely change. Not in all places though. In some areas, Airbnb is doing great. And Evan, you want to share your story just for a minute?
Yeah, no, you're right. And this was what you said when I bought my Airbnb. I talked with you about it, and you said, make sure two things: take minus 20% and see if it would still cash flow given the projections, and would it still work as a long-term rental? And both those answers were yes. And in those cases, my Airbnb is really nice, but it's a mid-tier. It's not $1 million home. It's a mid-tier. It's right near the ocean, but it's not.
How much was it in St. Augustine?
$469. Now it's furnished.
Okay, so $469,000 furnished.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've been doing great with that, regardless of the pandemic. And I think the key thing with that is that the vacation rentals that actually still work are where people can drive to the property. They don't have to fly. They can just do a road trip, a 3-4 hour road trip, and they can have a truly different experience than where they're coming from. So for
Yes.
your place, and I don't know if this is still the case, but at least in the beginning, I think it was, and you correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of people that were renting yours were driving from Atlanta or Orlando. And so
Mhm.
they could have a truly different experience being on the coast in beautiful St. Augustine. I love St. Augustine, Florida. It's America's oldest city, great place. And so that gave them a different experience for the whole family without getting on an airplane.
That's
And I
right.
think that formula did work very well. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Even Charlotte. I remember we had a couple of guests from Charlotte,
Mhm.
and that's exactly right. And there were even some people that would come down for like a weekend from Jacksonville, which I mean, it's in the Jacksonville, metropolitan area. People would drive an hour and
Yeah.
stay there for the weekend, and it's great.
That's a nice staycation. That's still a different experience than Jacksonville. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, I get it.
Absolutely. We're getting a lot of questions. Should we do some
Yeah,
questions?
yeah, but since we got this chart on, let's just cover this chart for a second. Okay, so this is another chart showing existing home inventory. This is from Bloomberg, and what we see here is absolutely staggering. I mean, look at the chart. You go back to 2000, okay, and then you see the Great Recession. The seed of it here is an overbuilt market, okay, which was overbuilt for a relatively short time. When you look at the big picture. And that's one of the reasons we had a crash, okay, is because there was a massive amount of supply, oversupply in the marketplace. But then, you see it start to steadily decline and really decline. And now it is at the lowest point except for earlier this year, okay, or really at the end of last year, earlier this year, right? These are the two lowest points. Maybe you call that December of 2019 to January of 2020 and today. And you saw supply go up for a little time when everybody was panicked and thought the world was ending, but clearly the world did not end. And here we are. Humanity, human ingenuity. Go back to the idiot Richard. Was it Richard Malthus? I think so. Malthusian economics of this scarcity mentality that just isn't true. Human ingenuity is amazingly resilient, and it solves so many problems that people cannot imagine how they will be solved.
Yeah.
And we
Well,
haven't solved the COVID problem yet, but we've learned to live with it, at least for now.
Well, you said that about Malthus, and I don't know if it was a recent podcast or an old one. I lose track because I've listened to all of them. But you said, Malthus thought of human beings as a problem, but we see it as an opportunity, that human ingenuity. And you were talking about
cost. Yeah.
Yes, cost. Right. But also you were talking about commodities. The one thing that's not a commodity is human beings, right? I mean, that human beings are unique. We're all unique. One of us could come up with a great cure for COVID. I mean, it's really human ingenuity is what drives life. We wouldn't be here without
Chris, and people, humans do make a mess of the planet, but they also clean it up. Okay, so and most people would probably agree that we're on the bad side of that curve right now. But I really have faith that all of these problems we face will be solved. The one that may not be solved is what I'll call the culture war, which I think is an absolute disaster. And the very sad brainwashing that has happened in our public school system in the US, and it's not as much around the world, but the media that has brainwashed an entire generation, and the public school system, and the college government debt enslavement complex that has brainwashed an entire generation. That one, I don't know how you solve it. Maybe people just grow out of it, and not to totally liken it to politics, because it's not, but it tracks it a little bit. And I'll just I think the saying was originally Winston Churchill. A lot of people have taken credit for it since then, but he said something to the effect of, if you're under 30 and you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart. If you're over 30 and you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. Okay,
Yeah.
so what we've got to get is the heart and mind united, right? And so hopefully a lot of these crazy social justice warrior people that just completely lack critical thinking skills, hopefully they'll grow up and grow out of it. I mean, every generation kind of looks at the next generation and they think, oh my God, who's going to run the world in 20 years, right?
Right. Right.
So, any
Well,
thoughts?
no, I agree. I mean, look, we all have different political opinions, but in fact, I just interviewed somebody for the Solomon Success Show, which is one of your podcasts that I occasionally co-host, and we might put
You
him.
do a great job.
Yeah. But this guy, Rod Dreher, who's a really major author, and he talks about that exact issue. In fact, his new book was about, he interviewed Russian dissidents who lived through the Soviet Union. And he says we're actually seeing some of those same trends right now in terms of the political correctness, people afraid to say what they really feel, this enforced, indoctrination. It's a very powerful book. I mean, I read it in preparation for the interview, and it's scary. We really need to speak out about it.
There are two things you can do. You can either suppress speech through government, and you can have the thought police, right? And the government can do that. And nowadays, instead of the government doing it, at least not directly, we have big, disgusting tech companies that are censoring speech, and we have political correctness, which is censoring speech. And so, you have this environment where people are shamed to say they're shamed for saying completely logical, rational things. These are not irrational things, most of them, and so most people have shut up, sadly, and they've become maybe the silent majority. I mean, in 16 they were the silent majority. Well, not exactly, because there's an electoral electoral college. Let's not go to it'll take an hour to have that argument, so let's not even bother. But the point is, so now these big tech companies are doing it. The mainstream media is censoring, and of course political correctness censors people. And folks, I tell you, that is a very dangerous thing. And if you or someone is participating in that kind of censorship, really think twice about that, and think back to Voltaire's saying, which is very true. And he said something to the effect of, I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. And everybody needs to believe that and buy into that idea, because it is, you may be on the right side of the mob today, but tomorrow you might be on the wrong side of the mob, and you'll be in the gulag. So be careful, folks. Things can change pretty quickly with this stuff. So this is a chart of interest rates on mortgage rates, and as you know, they're extremely low. But Evan, we got to get to some of these questions and comments, and you can put them on the screen, right, from your side, from your interface.
Let's see.
It's best to just click on them, and it'll display it?
I'm clicking on it, but it's not displaying.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll try to do it then.
I can read it. Juan, and I'll try to group a few questions together. Juan says he's got 70K in equity. Is that enough to purchase an investment property in Florida, perhaps Jacksonville? Absolutely.
Yeah. You can buy 2 properties with $70,000. I mean, of course, you need financing for the new property too, so it's always subject to qualifying. But yeah, good stuff. Reach out to us through jasonhartman.com or 1-800-HARTMAN, and one of our team members would be happy to help you.
Absolutely. And then David was asking about signing up, jasonhartman.com. Someone saying nice things about Adam, one of our investment counselors. Yes.
Adam's great.
Let's see. What else do we have here? Someone who's trying to do Jonathan John is in trucking across Virginia right now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You're self-employed and cannot get a cash out refinance. Yeah. That's a big, that's what Jason has talked about is these mortgage lenders rates are so low, but it's much harder to qualify. And so, especially if you're self-employed, it makes it pretty difficult. And cash out refis are very hard to get right now. Yeah, I wish we could help you more with that.
Yeah, well, the banks have, again, the banks had overcorrected coming out of the Great Recession, but they've also overcorrected with the COVID scare, and I think that's going to loosen a little bit. One of the things I've shown on prior live streams or YouTube videos, and I've talked about on the podcast, is what's called the MCAI, which is the Mortgage Credit Availability Index. And what that shows you is that it's not just about low interest rates, it's about the ability to borrow. In other words, how easy or difficult are lenders making it at any given time? And remember something, like anything in life, okay, this is an important concept. The higher the bar, the higher the barrier to entry, for those who make the effort to enter, to get over that hurdle, you do really well. Okay. And that's important. So, we get that it's a hassle to qualify for these mortgages. It's a pain. They ask for everything. I know. But remember, everybody else in the marketplace has to go through that same hassle, including your tenants who are would-be home buyers. And a lot of people don't have the discipline to go through it. So look at it like this. I mean, Evan, you're an athlete. You swim, you run, you do all kinds of stuff, right? And have you ever done like a marathon or a half marathon or anything like that?
Half marathon, yeah.
Yeah. Well, first off, I think you're crazy, but
Yeah.
that I think that's what cars are for. If you
Even
want
I'm not running, though. I only swim now. Yeah.
0.1 miles, you have cars for that. but what I do think is impressive is the will to do that. That just takes a lot of overcoming oneself, because don't we all just generally want to relax and not bother, right? We do. And so you look at it like that, and if you're willing to go through the hassle of making the effort to learn about income property, the most historically proven asset class in the entire world, the most tax favored asset class in America, and it's the best thing, right? And then you're willing to go through the hassle of getting the mortgages and doing all of this stuff, you're going to win. Okay, because a lot of people just aren't willing to do that. They'd rather play video games, watch TV, relax on the beach, whatever. And one of my first 4 mentors in life, who was fantastic, Jim Rohn he said, the pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. Okay, really think about that. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. Yeah. So, you don't get the reward right away. It takes time. It's that ability to delay gratification, to do something hard today for a big payoff in the future. And that big payoff has got a multiplier effect. It's amazing how it just multiplies your success,
I mean, what makes me so happy sometimes, I just had a conversation with a client who bought a property with me. I counseled them about 6 months ago. And she was just telling me, this was on Friday, how thankful she is. She bought that. She was hesitant and I encouraged her. And she went back and just said, thank you so much. This has been such a great investment for me. I had to overcome, people, we're naturally inactive. And it makes me so proud when we can encourage somebody to do the right thing. You never want, you don't want to push somebody to do something they don't want to do, but sometimes we just need a little nudge. We need a little inspiration. And that little nudge and inspiration can get us past that point of inaction. And then we're almost inevitably happier. And you know what? When you're in motion, it's also easier to turn back, to change. What's that they say? You can't steer a parked car. Sometimes when we're in motion, it makes it easier to make adjustments and change. And one of the things you teach about income property is that you can always change the terms of the deal. You can always refinance. You can always play around. You can always add value. So once you're in motion, once you've taken the action, you've got over that hump, the options just expand.
Yeah, that's so true. And you just reminded me of the one of the, I think it's the first law of thermodynamics, possibly. I don't know. I might be wrong about that, but yeah, one of these laws. I'm not a physicist, but the idea that an object in motion tends to remain in motion, right?
Yeah.
And an object at rest tends to remain at rest. So
Yeah.
once you get the motion going, it has this compounding effect, and it just multiplies by itself. But the hardest part is to get it started, right?
Right.
And
Right.
just let me share a couple of quotes on that, okay? And I've repeated these often on the podcast, but one is by Dr. Willis R. Whitney. Some people have thousands of reasons why they cannot do what they want to do, when
Mm,
all they really need is one reason why they can.
mm,
Okay. And then that other part about discipline, right?
mhm.
Um, no man is free who is not master of himself. Okay. And here's another great quote. I'm looking at one of my favorite quote lists here. These aren't from memory, but I do have them sort of memorized. But T.S. Eliot said, he said, "We know too much and are convinced of too little." That sort of speaks to the person who has all the information, has all the knowledge, but doesn't do anything, right? So you gotta just go out and take chances and do stuff. That's when
You-
things happen.
It's so true. We got a question here that I hear a lot from clients. So I wanted to get your input on it. Oh, where was it? It was from Kevin.
Okay.
Kevin Schmidt. Housing is facing historically low supply due solely to, well, that's arguable, but due solely to forbearance and perception of cheap housing due to Fed manipulating rates. Do you anticipate a flood of supply, assuming when forbearance ends? I get this question a lot, Jason. I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah, no, I do not anticipate that, Kevin. And I hope you had a chance to listen. If not, go back and listen to the Creating Wealth show, my podcast. Last week, I did the interview with Rick Sharga from Realty Track, and we really took a bit of a dive into that issue. And it's just not likely. I do think we might see some small increases in supply, but I don't think they'll be very significant. And even if we do, there is so much demand in the wings to eat up that supply. And the other thing that a lot of the pessimists fail to recognize is that they think, oh, well, what happens when the stimulus ends? What happens when the forbearance programs end? What happens when the eviction moratoriums end? Well, you know, okay, I have a question for you. What makes you think there isn't going to be another program after that? What makes you think that the government and the policymakers will want the country and the populace to endure any pain? They all want to be popular. They all want to buy votes. So we live in a world where they don't make the economy take the medicine anymore. Okay, they just paper over problems by printing more money, more stimulus, more bailouts, more programs. So whoever gets elected, in 9 days or whatever it is, 7 days,
What about Eric's?
it's
What
coming
about
up quick. Yeah.
what about Eric's question here? This is again something I hear from clients. I've got a few clients doing 1031s. What will
But let
happen?
me just finish that. Wait 1 sec. So whoever gets elected will want to be popular. It doesn't matter if it's Trump. It doesn't matter if it's Biden or Kamala Harris, right? Because Biden is asleep. Um, they want to be popular. They don't want to have any pain happen. So they're going to do the best they can to paper over the problem. Okay, with a new program, a new stimulus, a new law, whatever. Go ahead.
Well, do you remember when the Fed tried to slightly cut back on what's it called? Where the balance sheet expansion? Ben Bernanke, and the market plummeted in like 2,000 points in one day, and then they immediately changed policies. Yeah. Okay. Eric asks, what will happen to real estate if Biden gets rid of the 1031?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question, Eric. And I have talked about that on the podcast to, somewhat extensively. I think that would be a very bad move. I think it's pretty unlikely that he'll be able to do that because, number one, Congress is full of rich real estate investors, frankly, and the lobbyists for the real estate cartel. We have our own cartel, just like pharma and all the rest, and oil and everything else, and tech. So I think that's very unlikely that he would be able to do that. But if he does it, I think it would be bad for the economy, certainly. I think it would cause some stagnation. It would actually reduce the amount of supply. Okay. So if you're thinking that that would like tank the market, I think it would do the opposite. I think it would make people not sell properties because they don't want to pay gain. So they're just going to hang on to them. So I think it would curtail supply. The fact that you have a 1031 tax deferred exchange, which by the way is an awesome tax benefit, income property is the most tax favored asset class in America, uh, makes the market more liquid. It increases the velocity of money in the economy and the velocity of transactions in the real estate market. So I think it would be terrible if he got rid of the 1031 exchange. I don't think it's likely, but I'm kind of answering three things here at once. So I hope you're following me. But if he does, I think it would actually reduce the amount of supply. So that would actually probably put upward pressure on prices. Okay. So, yeah.
Good. Someone said, who else would you recommend? Love the discussion. Who else would you recommend to follow, listen for education networking? You don't need to listen to anyone else. As long as you listen to the podcast and listen to Creating Wealth, you're fine. Well, we'll get to that. But actually, this is one of my.
Remember, when you're following my work, by the way, when you listen to the Creating Wealth show, you're not listening to me all the time. You're listening to all of my guests. I've interviewed thousands and thousands of guests, experts in all these different fields. And I really make it a point to interview people that I don't agree with. Okay. I don't agree with a lot of my guests. I mean,
Bill Ayers.
That's called journalism. Yeah. I interviewed Bill Ayers twice, not once, but twice. The man who made Obama. You think I agree with Bill Ayers? Of course not. I interviewed Noam Chomsky, who I do agree with on some things, but certainly not his socialist leanings. I interviewed Richard Wolff, the Marxist professor, and someone gave me a 1-star review and said I was glorifying Marxism. Are you kidding me? I'm the last person who would do that.
That was a great interview. I remember that was really a good. Yeah. One of my clients, Joseph Aragon, we've had some great conversations, and he has some money to invest. And Joseph asked, and this is another question we get a lot, what are the advantages of single family or small multifamily over apartment syndications? What would you say to that, Jason?
I'd say, refer back to my 10 commandments of successful investing. Commandment number three, folks, which has been one of the most well-received commandments of all of them. And commandment number 3 is, thou shalt maintain control. When you relinquish control of your money to somebody else, you leave yourself susceptible to three major problems. Number one, you might be investing with a crook. Number two, you might be investing with an idiot. And either way, you're going to lose money. Number three, assuming they're honest and competent. Number three problem is they take a huge management fee off the top for managing the deal. Okay. And you don't want this. You want to be a direct investor. You want to own and control your own stuff. Okay. Be a direct investor. So, look at Wall Street investments, mutual funds, syndications, stocks, private placement memorandums in startup businesses. All of those things enrich the promoters mostly. I'm not saying the investors don't get enriched. Certainly they do sometimes. But the first cut goes to the person who set it up, the sponsor, the promoter. That's who gets the first cut, and the investors get what's left over.
Who do you think's paying for their private planes and their marketing and all that? The investors are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, I'll try to get some of these on the screen. Bill, all the content I've seen, Jason's is top notch. Hey, thank you. We'll keep making the effort for you. Kevin, okay, he's talking to Kim here, so we want to try to kind of skip when you're talking to each other and go to the things where you're actually asking.
Oh, here's one from Stacy. This is a great question. Would you recommend pulling equity out of your personal home to invest with? We own it with no current mortgage.
Oh, Evan, what am I going to say?
No, you're going to say you should always pay cash for things. You should never take on debt. That's what you.
Not.
Well, Stacy, that's how a lot of our investors start off. They've got equity in their home, and even if your home is increasing in value, the increasing in value is coming whether you have a lot of equity or not. So whenever you have home equity, it's dead. It's not doing anything for you. Your house is appreciating or depreciating regardless. And so, yes, you'd want to take that equity and deploy it in a smart way. You want to take that equity and create cash flow out of it as much as you can.
Yeah. When you first of all, go to jasonhartman.com and find an old podcast. I mean, there are many I have addressed this issue thousands of times. Okay. But one, you can hear it from someone else, a financial advisor. He's a stock guy. Okay. A Wall Street guy. So I don't like any of that stuff, but he is really smart and interesting and has some very good points. Rick Edelman. Okay. And I've interviewed him on the show a few times. And on one, I interviewed him on his, he had a DVD, that he put out many, many years ago called 10 Great Reasons to Carry a Big Long Mortgage and Never Pay It Off. Okay. And that, by the way, was when interest rates were much higher than they are today. Now, there are a million great reasons to carry a big long mortgage and never pay it off. Okay. You're borrowing money at negative interest rates. You're literally getting paid to borrow the money. And remember something, if you think you own your property free and clear, you are mistaken. You have a perpetual lien on your property called property taxes. Yeah. Okay. It's never paid off ever. And that's true pretty much everywhere in the world. There's hardly any place with no property taxes. And then you may have a homeowners association, which is another perpetual lien on your property. So you don't own your property free and clear. And when you let your money sit in the property, there's no return on it. It's lazy money. It's sleepy money. If you owned a business, would you hire a lazy, sleepy employee? No. You want someone who's going to work, right? You don't want a lazy person. They're costing you money. That's what your equity is doing. It's costing you money. So get that equity out, strip it, put yourself in a better position to be in control of that money, okay? And deploy it into diverse markets, at least 3 markets, three different cities, not more than 5. And, that's what we do. Go to jasonhartman.com. You can look at great properties and you can really start getting a return on that equity rather than letting it sit there doing nothing for you. Okay.
That's right.
Let me grab a couple of these, Evan, because I can display them on the screen. Okay. So you can read them if you want. I'll just display them. So go ahead.
Dan asks you, Jason, why didn't you do a 1031 exchange when you sold your apartment building? Do you have that in your pocket? I know the answer to this, but Jason, you can go on a little bit.
Well, there are a couple things. Number one, I just couldn't find another big property. I mean, certainly I could find one, right? But number one, I'd either have to compromise on how good the deal was because inventory was super tight in those larger, almost institutional type of properties. This was a $5 million apartment complex I owned with a client of mine, and we sold it, and neither of us did our 1031s. He paid the gain. I did another thing that I talked about on the podcast, on the Creating Wealth show. And so I didn't pay the gain. I did an installment sale on my portion. And the other reason was because I'm really thinking about how busy I want to be. Look, I'm ahead of most people. I've been investing for decades. Okay, I've made a lot of money, and I'm actually kind of starting to think about the time where I'm gonna, relax a little bit and not be so busy, running a huge portfolio and running all these businesses and stuff like that. I mean, I love doing it. I actually like business more, spending my time on that than on my own portfolio. And I'll tell you why. It's just more creative. I like the creativity of it. I remember my ex-girlfriend years ago telling me about her sister who was an artist, and her sister was in. She had two sisters, but the one came in to visit for Thanksgiving, and she said her sister was just driving her crazy, driving the whole family crazy because she couldn't paint. She didn't bring any of her painting stuff with her, and it was like that was her outlet because she was a creative person. And I thought, I'm kind of that way. Like if I can't work, it drives me nuts. I love to do it because it's a creative endeavor for me. It's not, I mean, some of it is work and I don't like it. It's drudgery a little bit, but most of it is just interesting and fun and exciting like that. So, I gotta admit, I wasn't just super, super motivated. Now, if I would have had to pay the capital gain, I would have been way more motivated. Okay. But I found a way around it, and property inventory was very scarce. So, I just didn't do it. It was the first time ever I didn't complete my exchange, so whatever.
Muthaya, one of our long-term clients, asks, how do you,
Muthaya.
yeah, how do you scale your portfolio if you only invest in single-family rentals and avoid syndications and partnerships? That's a great, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't need a scale. I mean, but maybe answer that question, Jason.
Yeah. So first off, that's a good point. It's, and that kind of relates to what I was just saying. You know, we've all got to decide how much is enough, right? And we got to decide, is our wealth improving our life, right? And even if it's marginally not, you always want to have a little extra, okay, just as a safety net, all right? But to answer the question directly, figure out your plan and figure out how much is enough for you, right? But if you want more and you want to scale more, you scale it through commercial loans where you can buy more than the 10 you might be referring to. Now, Muthaya is over 10, I'm pretty sure. I think he's near 20-ish properties or more, maybe. I can't remember. But, he's been a client for many years. And so you just get commercial loans. And the other thing to make yourself not as busy is you gotta, not do more than 5 areas. Okay. That's one of the mistakes I made. I used to own properties in 11 states and 17 cities, and I've been unwinding that for years because that became unwieldy, too hard to manage. So no more than 5 markets, folks. Okay. And then, as far as scaling, start doubling down into those markets and just buying more properties deeply into the market. And it won't
Yes.
be that hard to manage if you are more focused. Okay. So, and figure out how much is enough for you. Maybe once you have 30, 40 properties, that's enough. Then you don't need to keep worrying about buying more, right? Of course, economically, stripping the equity from those properties and buying more is going to be a better thing from a numbers perspective. No question. It's also going to lower your risk Make sure you set up the appropriate estate planning and asset protection, which, by the way, Evan, I want to make sure we cover this. So I'm going to go back to the slides here for a second because this is going to remind me, okay, if nothing else. We got to talk about this because so many people ask questions about it. But go ahead, grab another question if you want.
Nathan said, I know how you're going to answer this. Which city and state would you invest in first? I live in California and looking to make my first out-of-state rental purchase, looking for my first city to buy up to 3 properties. If you were me, where would you start off?
Evan, actually, you could probably answer that question better than me, but I will say this much. Most people are looking for us to answer with who's your favorite. Okay, which market's your favorite, right? And that's like asking a parent, who's your favorite kid? They might have one, but they're not going to tell you. Okay. So, Evan, you've got 3 kids. Who's your favorite?
I could answer that, but I hope my wife's not listening. But
or the kids aren't listening.
Yeah. But Nathan, really, I mean, that's something to talk about with your investment counselor. And if you don't have one, you could sign up online, just put your info in and someone will call you. But the truth is, the markets we have right now, they all have pretty comparable returns. I mean, Florida is very popular with a lot of investors. The thing about Florida is it's slightly more expensive. Alabama is terrific. We've had a lot of happy customers in Alabama. Memphis and Little Rock. There's great opportunities.
And by the way, when you say Alabama, there are multiple cities in Alabama. That's why you're referring to it as the state rather than cities like the others. Okay. But yeah, absolutely. And, look, there is no perfect answer to that question. I have been asked that question, thousands of times over the last 16, 17 years doing this. And, there really is no perfect, and nobody knows. The point is just pick 3 to 5 markets. You can go to jasonhartman.com, click on the properties page, talk to one of our team members, 3 to 5 markets, and be somewhat geographically diversified, and you're going to do great. I mean, this just works. It just works for everybody. Okay.
I had a conversation with a client on Wednesday, very similar question. And we started with 2. We started in Atlanta and in Southwest Florida, and he's thrilled. So, you can start anywhere. Atlanta's a great market, Alabama. Talk to your investment counselor.
And we don't know. We don't know which one's going to be the best one in 10 years, 20 years. I mean, we look at various metrics. We have a way of vetting markets that we've developed over the years. You're looking for population growth. You're looking for a market that's landlord friendly. And, those markets are usually Republican leaning, not to say they're all, nothing is all this or that, but they're conservative leaning places. They're business friendly leaning places. And they have good rent to value ratios. And most importantly, they're places where we have a good team that we're working with, and Evan is nodding his head because he knows I've said many times, I'd rather have a B market with an A team than an A market with a B team. Okay. Because you're just going to the team is so important, right? That support network that we offer through our platform is so important to really help you have success as an investor. And, we've helped thousands and thousands of people do this over many, many years. So we can help you too. Okay. Let me get to that slide, Evan. And we got to make sure we talk about this stuff because this is like the most recurrent question, I think, in our business. Asset protection, estate planning, right? What do I do? Do I set up a corporation or multiple corporations or an LLC or multiple LLCs or a trust or a few different trusts, right? Or a FLP or family limited partnership, right? Or do I use another vehicle like a different kind of partnership? There are so many flavors and so much complexity to this discussion. And we are not lawyers. We are not legal advisors. I can, of course, share my personal experience with you and the experiences I know about from our clients over the years. But the important thing is to do this without agonizing about it and without spending a fortune on it. There are many promoters out there who will sell you all kinds of crap you don't need, probably. Okay. And they will charge you an absolute fortune for it. You want to get this stuff done economically, and you want to get it done right away. You don't want to wait for it. So, we've got a webinar that has been just super well received. I mean, this is the best received webinar in our entire network, which is I'm going to remove Evan for a moment. He's walking around. I think he was looking for a better Wi-Fi connection in his house. I'll put him back on in a moment. But it's been super well received. Like hundreds of people who have checked out this webinar. And just go to jasonhartman.com/protect. And it's an hour. I think it's an hour and 20 minutes long. You'll get some really good education and a really good offer from one of the attorneys that we work with and really like. He's my own personal attorney who's done work for me personally and for many of our clients, and just does a great job. So again, that link is on the screen, jasonhartman.com/protect. Just check out that free webinar, and I think you'll really get some good education on that. Good education on that. Hey, I hope Evan's coming back. Evan, what's going on? Where are you? Okay, so but a couple more things on this. Most real estate investors are using a combination of LLCs. They might do multiple LLCs, and in different states, because different states have different laws and different advantages and disadvantages, and a trust. Now, when I say a trust, there are a zillion types of trust. And a trust, what's interesting about that is that, these promoters and these attorneys out there just give them names. They're like made up names. You can just call a trust whatever you want. Say it's a strawberry trust, whatever. Like, it can be anything, right? It could be the chocolate trust, or the raspberry trust, whatever you want, right? It can be anything. So, but you can use these very successfully, all of these vehicles, to reduce your tax liability, improve your estate planning and your asset protection situation. And also the family limited partnership, the FLP, is another one. So just attend that webinar, and I think you'll really, really like it, and you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot about real estate, about asset protection, all that stuff. Evan is back with us. What happened, Evan?
Well, this may sound a little awkward. I had to use the washroom. I'm sorry.
Oh.
That coffee.
I noticed your Wi-Fi connection wasn't that great, so I thought you were searching for better Wi-Fi. Okay, hey, let's grab a few more of these questions. We've got some more slides to show you too, but Evan, you want to grab some of these?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, we got so many good questions. How much income? This is very interesting. How much income do you need to realize to be in the sweet spot to qualify for your standard 30-year loans? What is a good number, assuming an 800 credit score? That credit too high.
Okay, too high. Thank you for reminding me of that, folks. People use their FICO scores as a status symbol, and let me tell you something. A lot of folks who think their status is good, I'm gonna interfere with that pattern and say it's not good. And here's what I mean by that is, and I think I addressed this last time on the live stream, but I don't think I fully explained it. So let me make sure I do this time. You've all seen a balance sheet, right? On one side, you've got assets. On the other side, you've got liabilities. And at the bottom, when you subtract the liabilities from the assets, you've got your net worth, right? But one of the things that people fail to include on their balance sheet, although you can't put a number on it, but it is an asset, is your ability to borrow. And if your FICO score is really high, 850 is the highest, by the way, and anything below, say 680 would not be great. Certainly, people have very low FICO scores in the 400 and 500s, but 720 is sort of considered the sweet spot of a FICO score. And if your FICO score is really high, it's probably because you're not using your credit enough. It's kind of like saying, okay, well, I'm protecting myself from going out and running. So I'm never going to get a sprained ankle, but I'm also never going to get any exercise, and I'm going to get heart disease and diabetes and I'm going to become obese because I didn't get any exercise, right? And so you want to exercise your FICO score. You want to use that asset you have. So really anything above about 720, or some would argue 740, which is a fantastic FICO score, is really unnecessary. So use your credit, borrow and use it for income producing assets like income property, of course.
I mean, Jason, this is one of those concepts, like in order to sort of understand and apply your philosophy of investing, which works, there's a couple of like sort of counterintuitive concepts you've got to understand. And I think this FICO score being that you should want it to be a little bit lower, so using your credit is one of those.
Yeah.
And also the idea of debt being positive debt, in that a high loan balance is the best insurance policy. These are a couple of counterintuitive concepts that you teach that once you get them, you see how powerful they are, but it takes a little time to get them.
So let me talk about okay, let's answer the question, and I'm glad you reminded me of that, Evan, because that's a great segue. We should definitely talk about that. So the lender will of course look at your FICO score, and they'll also look at what's called your DTI, debt to income ratio. Okay, so they're going to look at the debts you have and the income you have, and they're going to come up with that DTI, that debt to income ratio, and then they're going to tell you how much you can qualify for. Okay, so these rental properties have very low mortgage payments because they're cheap properties. I mean, they're not very expensive, right? Like one of the more expensive properties in our network would be $250,000, which if you live in the Socialist Republic of California or the Socialist Republic of New York or any of the expensive overpriced markets where you shouldn't be investing, that's going to look extremely cheap to you. But a lot, you can buy properties through our network that are on our platform for $120,000. Okay, so they're really inexpensive, and so it's not terribly hard to qualify. It is a bit of a hassle factor, and we talked about the barrier to entry. That makes a barrier to entry for other people, and you want that barrier to entry because it keeps people out. Okay, and that's what you want. You want to be in an exclusive club of property owners, right? So that. Now let's talk about the high loan balance being the best insurance that Evan mentioned. Okay, Evan, why do I say this? Let's test your knowledge and let's have you share it a little bit.
Well, because
but I want to get a book while you talk about that. It's right here. I just got to grab it. Okay?
If there's a downturn, where do banks? If a bank could foreclose on you, would they foreclose on somebody who's already paid them back a whole bunch, or would they foreclose on somebody who still owes them a lot? They would foreclose on someone who's paid them back already. They're not going to foreclose on somebody who they can still work out a deal and still get a big chunk of money back from. So
it's not that someone who's paid them back. It's I want to say that a little differently. It's the properties with the highest amount of equity are the biggest targets for foreclosure.
Yes.
Because the lender knows that there's a pad in there. There's room. If you're a lender and you're looking at a portfolio of say 1,000 mortgages that you own, okay, and you're going to analyze what you have to do to make these. Say those are all non-performing loans. In other words, people aren't paying, okay, and if the properties that have very little or no equity in them, the lender is going to say, okay, we are going to send them letters offering loan modifications, or we're going to send them letters offering short sales. We're going to have our call center call those people and reach out to them and say, hey, you're not paying, you're upside down on the property. What can we do to help? That's going to be what the lender says, in essence. Okay. Can we modify your loan for you? In other words, reduce the interest rate, make a forbearance where we'll put a moratorium on payments, whatever, right? They'll do something. Or they'll say, hey, can we help you sell the property? We will agree to reduce our loan balance to let you sell the property. That's called a short sale. Okay. But if you, then if say half of those loans, the other 500 are people with a lot of equity, they're going to say, put those right into foreclosure, file notice of default, and those have equity. So at the foreclosure sale, we're going to be protected. We can resell that property if we have to take it back because there's equity. So
That's right.
it's counterintuitive, like Evan said. The
I would
best
encourage
position is to have less equity. Go ahead.
everyone should listen to some old podcasts you did back in 2006, 2007. You could find them on the website. Because I remember one of the things Jason talked about was after Hurricane Katrina, there were all these deals that the federal government said banks had to make with borrowers that gave them essentially 6 months of I don't know if it was total forgiveness or just basically a form of forbearance. But if you had your home all paid off, you didn't get any of that benefit. Only the people who had huge loan balances. The bigger your loan was, the more benefit you got. So again, it's the bigger the loan, the better the insurance.
You
So
are absolutely
old
right.
episodes.
And folks, life is not fair. I
No.
heard that a lot growing up, okay, as a kid. My mom would say, life isn't fair, and it's not. You do the seemingly right thing, which the right thing is delay gratification, pay off your mortgage, pay it down, save money, all of this so-called right stuff uh, tends to not be rewarded in our society, sadly. Okay. So that's the way it is. That's the way it is. All right,
Yeah.
Evan, what else you got?
We're
I'm
getting a
looking
lot
for
of questions. We're getting a lot of questions about qualifying for mortgages. Someone asked if it's possible to get a mortgage after you're retired, if you're self-employed. We're not loan officers, but anything's possible. If you can show income, if you have certain, some of the lenders we work with are a little better than others in terms of helping you figure out ways to qualify. But it all comes down to, it's much easiest if you have a W-2 job. But if you're self-employed and you can show that you've got consistent income, yes, you can qualify. Absolutely. And what I found is it's often hardest to qualify for the first time, the first one. Then once you have a couple of rental properties and you're showing some positive cash flow, that actually helps you qualify for more.
Right.
So it's the first ones that are a little trickier to qualify for. But yeah, you can. It all depends on, there's so many factors, hard to answer in the abstract, but talk to us and we can help. We can connect you with the loan officers that may be able to help you.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, what else we got?
We got
lot of good comments and questions, folks. Keep them coming. Thanks. And remember, if we don't get to them all here, this just goes into the general, what I'll call the general fund. Okay, where we'll be answering these on future live streams, on the podcast, on the YouTube channel, etc. Oh, and Evan, by the way, I gotta show a slide here. Okay, for a second. Whoops.
Let's see.
Okay, so we recently passed 10,000 subscribers on our humble little YouTube channel. I know that may not sound like a big deal, but we've never paid much attention to YouTube until recently, and so we're past 10,000 subscribers. So thank you all for subscribing and liking and commenting and turning on the notification bell so you get our notifications whenever we post a new video. And we're posting new ones several times a week. And all of these questions, go into what we try to just answer on an ongoing basis in all of our content. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
Bill asked, Jason, have you ever had to go to a remote property on short notice unexpectedly? Jason has properties he self-manages that he's never been to. So he could answer that, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. But Jason is
well, my question is, why would I ever have to go there?
Right.
Like, what would be the point of that? I know that may seem like a counterintuitive thing too, right? I remember, and I've told the story before, but I had this one property, at the time when I lived in Newport Coast, California. Okay, I had 3 houses in Newport Coast, and I had a property in Irvine that was a rental property. And my tenant gave notice that he was moving. He was a guy named Josh, nice guy, and he lived there for, I think, a little over 3 years. And I went there and I realized after he'd moved, I went there to do the inspection. Of course, I was self-managing it. I went there to do the inspection, and I realized I hadn't been there in 3 years. And the house was like, it was like 10 minutes from my office and maybe 15 minutes from my home. Maybe 18, 20 minutes from my home and 10 minutes from my office. And I still didn't go there. Like, what's the point in going there? Why would I need to go there? I'm not interested in painting the house myself or working on it myself. I don't want a job as a handyman, even though I'm somewhat capable of doing all of that stuff. I've certainly done it many times, but I don't want to do that stuff. When the properties are close to you, it actually makes you an inferior manager. You're a better manager. Remember, you want to be an investment manager, not a handy man. Okay, and I should say handy person to be politically correct. So
But
yeah, you don't
Jason,
want to be working on your properties. Why would you want to go there? I mean, I have properties that I've owned for 15 years. I've never seen them. I've never met the tenants. I've never even been to the property. It's just
well,
weird,
I two things. Actually, when clients ask me whether they should go visit, I say it's not necessary. But I have found when you go and visit, you end up wanting to buy more. At least that's my, so
That's sort of a different thing. That's not a management question. That's a
right,
question of going and touring a market
right.
uh, with a local market specialist with one of the people in our network. So certainly, yeah.
Well, one thing you told me, and that I've seen is so true. Even the property managers don't go and visit the property that much.
Well,
They call out. They call the plumber, and they have the plumber go visit. They're not doing that. You can do a lot of that from where you are. David asked, we are trying to close on our Palm Coast, Florida duplex, but delayed by the backlog of appraisals. The refi volume is adding pressure on appraisals. Are others seeing this? Oh, yes. Everything's been delayed. It's never-endingly frustrated. These mortgage lenders are backed up big time. I think what you're facing, David, is not unusual. A lot of my clients have been facing that.
Yeah, you're in good company. Look, at the market is booming. The whole industry is stretched right now. The lenders are so busy processing mortgages. The appraisers are so busy trying to get all the appraisals done. Um, I mean, the market is absolutely booming. And by the way, this is interesting too. Remember, the sales statistics on real estate are always limited by the amount of inventory. And I saw a study, it was really interesting. I got to find this so we can present it, but I saw this study that showed that uh, if the real estate market right now had double the inventory, it would be doing double the sales.
Wow.
That's how significant that inventory constraint is, because there's just nothing to buy, nothing to sell in many ways. Now, I don't want to discourage people by saying that, because of
No.
course, that's a figure of speech. I mean, Evan, you've been working with people helping them buy properties just last week, okay? And so if you're working with one of our team members and you're looking at the properties on our platform, we can help you get a property, but you just have to be patient and you have to be ready to make a decision right away. So you need to make up your mind that you're an investor before the property exists. Okay.
And we are constantly working to find good properties. I mean, I'm calling property managers, sellers every day, trying to dig up more inventory. And obviously, we have high standards. I mean, we could sell bad properties all the time. Some of our competitors do, but we are finding stuff that's really cash flowing and does well. And so, it's we should be happy that the supply is low, because it's going to just prove better for our investments in the long run. One person asked, Jason, this is not an area where your predictions have been perfect, but somebody said, do you think current low interest rates will continue to be available after the election?
I'm going to admit, once again, like I have a million times, beating myself up here, that my ability to predict interest rates absolutely sucks. So
Nobody gets it right.
it's pretty hard.
But we don't. So
I think rates are going to be. I think the rates are going to be low. For the next year, I'm sure. Yeah. It's looking that way. I mean, listen, I don't really need to make a prediction because Jerome Powell, our rich uncle, the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, he's come out and stated that. Okay, he is one of the most hard on his sleeve, transparent Fed chairs we've had. He just tells everybody what's coming. Unlike Alan Greenspan, who was the complete opposite. So yeah.
Steve from Madison, Wisconsin, great talent. I love Madison. When you self-manage, who do you have do all the painting when there's a turnover? What do you pay them? Obviously, they have to do some drywall work and paint. This question is based on a 1,000-square-foot unit. Or we can't give you a total answer, but Jason, what do you do when you're self-managing and have a turnover?
So ultimately, you want to join our Empowered Investor Inner Circle because we are assembling a network of contractors, vendors, HVAC people, painters, handy people, and all of these trades that you need. But right now, what you would do is you would have a real estate agent or a property manager on an a la carte basis, not where they're managing the property, where they're simply doing an a la carte service and handling the turnover in between tenants, the tenant turn, and they'll provide referrals. And if not, you can easily find this stuff online. You can use Home Advisor, Angie's List. There's just a million resources for this. TaskRabbit is great. Thumbtack. Nowadays, with the technology we have, it's so easy to just source everything you need. So do not worry about that, folks. Okay. And we can help you with it. Our team will help you with that. But we specifically created a community for this called the Empowered Investor Inner Circle. That was a community that is leaning towards self-management. And we're just getting that off the ground, and it's been great so far. And you can go check that out at empoweredrei.com. REI stands for real estate investing or investment, empoweredrei.com.
Great.
And by the way, Evan, I have a quote that I want to share. This is one of my favorite quotes of all time. And it relates to the comment we were just talking about when we talked about inventory or lack thereof, and how you need to decide in advance because you can't agonize over a decision when a property is presented because it's going to be gone. Okay. It's going to be gone. So here is the quote from none other than the super famous Napoleon Hill. Okay. He wrote, of course, Think and Grow Rich, many other books. We had Sharon Lechter on my podcast several times, and she spoke at our recent Meet the Masters, and she's done a book in conjunction with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And that's just phenomenal stuff out of Napoleon Hill, of course. Okay, but listen to what he said. This is just a great quote, and it's very important. Okay, you listening? Here it is. Successful people make decisions quickly as soon as all the facts are available, and change them very slowly, if ever. Unsuccessful people make decisions very slowly and change them often and quickly. What successful people do is they figure out what they want, and when they see it, they do it. Okay, they don't agonize, they don't get all mired in paralysis of analysis. The world belongs to action takers, to people that make decisions. That's who runs the world, folks, and that's who has the good life. Okay, our decision makers. And then they're extremely consistent, like boringly consistent, where they just stick with things and they're willing to slog it out. And that other old quote is, I get up when I fall down. Right? You just gotta just keep doing things. Okay, that's
I need to go get a power cord, but what you just told me is reminded me of another quote you've shared. I don't remember if this was from your mom or if this was you, but successful people hold on for 5 minutes longer than, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that quote, at least my version of it is, successful people hang on after others have let go. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Okay, go get your power cord, and I'm going to go over a chart with people, and then we'll kind of start wrapping up here, folks, because it's lunchtime. It's 12:30 on the East Coast. Okay, so let me share my screen and show you this chart. We had it up for just a moment, but did not explain it. I interviewed another demographer on my show last week. This interview will probably be published next week, or like this coming week, and we were talking about the aging population. And I've interviewed many people on this. I've shared many studies and reports over the years on the podcast about this. And what's interesting here is let's just look at the chart. It says aging will lead to a massive rise in deficits and borrowing. And what he's referring to here is government debt, government borrowing, and government deficits. Okay, so what does this mean to us as real estate investors? Why does it matter to us? Right? Okay, so the government runs a deficit. So the government is in debt. We all know this. We all hear it all the time. Maybe we don't know how much it is or how significant it is, but we know that it's true. Well, one of the things that debt does and deficits do is they create inflationary pressures. And you know that I am, number one, a believer that significant inflation is coming. Some of it's already here, even now, because the inflation stats we hear that are published through the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, or what they call core inflation, which is just basically the CPI, but they strip out food and energy prices. And I don't know how many of us could ever live without food and energy. Energy's in everything, right? It's in my sound effects machine, it's in the microphone, it's in the computer I'm using. Energy, you need energy to make every product, right? And you need food to live, obviously, right? So the core rate is really a way to understate true inflation by saying core rate. Okay. So, anyway, when you see this debt and these deficits, it creates inflationary pressure. Why? Because number one, the government wants inflation because inflation makes it cheaper to pay back the debt. So, like I've said before, if you owe, for example, $1 trillion to China, and you can create inflation in the system by printing more money out of thin air. Remember, scarcity and utility, the two drivers of value, right? If money is scarce, it has more value. It certainly has value because it has utility, right? And I should say currency, not money. It's actually currency is the right word, because the dollar or the yen or the euro or the Brazilian real or the Mexican peso, that's only currency. It's not money. The implication of money is that it has intrinsic value. Currency is paper, it's fiat. Fiat means by authority. So you hear people say, oh, fiat money. Well, yeah, it is fiat money because the government says it has value. So we all buy into that system. And they have a system to enforce that, a legal system called, what are they called now? Legal tender laws. Thank you very much. I forgot for a moment. This is harder than it looks to think on your feet. Legal tender laws. So the legal tender laws, Evan, you're back on.
Yep.
So the legal tender laws say that the currency has value and that it has to be accepted, right? And so that gives it value by forcing merchants to accept it. And so bottom line is this debt creates inflation in the system. So now layer on that this issue of the aging population, the graying of America. Okay. And just look at this, right? So as we go through time here, okay, 2023 to 2024, and then we move through the years, look at what happens here in terms of the primary balance as a percentage of GDP. Okay. So when we look at how significant is debt versus GDP, how significant are deficits versus GDP, and what happens as the population ages? Well, several years ago, when I launched a new podcast called the Longevity and Biohacking Show, I'm very interested in that subject. Number one, because hey, what has fascinated humanity since the beginning of time is immortality, right? But I'm also fascinated at how the depiction of age has changed so much. When you look at movies, even go look at movies from say the 70s, and look at their depiction of a 40-year-old as like an old person, and nowadays a 40-year-old is like a 25-year-old or 23-year-old, if they're healthy and active and engaged in life, right? And so that depiction of aging has changed dramatically. Evan, it looks like you're on a phone now, so just turn it
Yeah.
sideways so the screen will be normal aspect ratio. Oh, but you turn with
Hold
us.
on.
That doesn't work. Anyway,
My
nope,
wife said
does
my
not
power
work. Yeah,
source.
just leave it alone. Okay. Okay. So this aging population has hugely significant impacts on government entitlements and Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, and all of these social programs are going to get so onerous as the population continues to age, and that increases the debt, and that increases inflationary pressure. And if you're a real estate investor and you are using my strategy, especially of inflation induced debt destruction, this chart basically shows you how rich you're going to get. That's the basic bottom line of this chart. So be happy, okay? Oh, not like that. Wrong one. Yeah. So be happy, because the aging population is basically another form of pressure to enrich you. Okay, so hope that helps and makes sense. Evan, you want to grab just a couple more final questions and we'll wrap it up,
Absolutely.
or comments? Now we don't hear you as well. Your microphone is much further away,
Is
or
it?
something.
Let me get a little
Yeah,
closer.
just speak a
Um,
little louder.
um, uh, People can qualify with no income. Yes. Um, so that's a very interesting question. Somebody said if you're using a property manager, an a la carte option, it would be hard because you would have to have supervision and access to the property. Yes, but you could piece that together.
No, no,
Um,
no, no. The property manager, you would, if you're hiring the property manager a la carte, or you're hiring a real estate agent, just a regular real estate agent who, many of them do leases. When I was a traditional real estate agent, I leased houses all the time, and they will help you with the tenant turn. So they'll go meet with the old tenants, get a key from them. They will do a walkthrough of the property, send you photographs and videos, uh, and um, and then they will market the property for a new tenant. They'll help you coordinate any repair people you need to come through the property and do maintenance. They can refer those people, and then they will do a walkthrough with the new tenant after screening the new tenant and writing up the lease agreement and so forth. So you have abundant resources for all of this stuff. Okay,
and you
you
can use your own expertise. I was talking to a client who is moving back to the United States from Singapore, and she just purchased 3 properties, and she's a really smart corporate person. And I said to her, I said, you could manage one of these properties yourself. It was a newer construction home, and she's doing it now because she knows how to run a team. She knows how to put together things, and she's super excited. If you are a smart individual, and most of our customers are very smart. You can do this, and in fact, it might, as you said, it might take less time to self-manage than than
oh,
than to hire a property manager.
totally. Because when you get that intermediary, that middleman out of the way, then you don't have any more conflicting interest, right? So you have a situation where you're going direct, you're talking to the tenant, and the tenant has that social pressure of maintaining that relationship with you. So I think self-management is fantastic. Look, if you're
One
brand new, you probably shouldn't be
right.
self-managing a remote property. Have a property manager for the first year or two, learn from them, okay? Be engaged and involved, and then you can quite easily and handily self-manage with the support of our network and joining the Empowered Investor Inner Circle at empoweredrei.com. Okay,
Yes.
go
One
ahead.
question.
Evan, you're making some noise like wiggling something around there.
Really?
So,
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just ask you one question because I
yeah.
get a lot of this from clients. What about tax? If you could summarize the tax benefits of income property investing, you always teach us that uh, income property is the most tax favored asset class.
Yeah.
Can you summarize what they are, the
Yeah.
benefits?
So of course, the 1031 tax deferred exchange. When you sell your property, when you sell the asset, if it's a stock or a business, I'm just going to mute you while you're moving around something there. Okay. When you sell an asset, a business you own, a stock in a company, now Evan just totally disappeared. I don't know what's going on here, folks. So whenever you do that, you're going to pay tax, right? You're going to pay tax and you're going to only get to reinvest what's left over. But when you sell a income property, you can do a 1031 tax deferred exchange and defer that tax indefinitely, and you can keep doing these your whole life. Okay, that's what's phenomenal about it. You can just do them your whole life. Evan is back with us. Evan, get your
Yeah.
technology figured out. Okay.
My wife stole my power cord.
Oh
That's
Hey, folks, you can tell this is a high-end production here.
it's like my dog ate my homework, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you're not running SpaceX. It's like, oh, we can't launch the rocket because the power cord is missing.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway, so what was I saying though?
Tax benefits,
Yeah.
depreciation.
Oh, so thank you. So the 1031 tax deferred exchange, you get to reinvest the whole thing. And over the course of doing that over 10 years, 20 years, a lifetime, that is a huge wealth builder.
Huge.
You can reinvest everything before taxes, and you can do that your whole life, and then you get to die. Okay. And under current law, and by the way, I'm not a tax expert either or a legal expert. Under current law, the basis steps up to market value. So your inheritors, your heirs, can sell those properties and have no tax liability potentially. It's absolutely incredible. So that's one of many tax benefits. The other one
And
is you can write off additional expenses that might not normally be deductible because when you're a real estate investor, you're basically starting another business. Okay. So, say, for example, you're a W 2 employee and you have a job, and that's the highest taxed, worst form of income. Okay, and you're going to pay tax. You can't deduct much at all, right? But as a real estate investor, suddenly some of the things you're already spending money on can become tax deductible. So you get some extra deductions, but that's not much. But now I'm going to get to a big one, and that's my favorite of all, depreciation. Okay, depreciation is a what I call a phantom write-off. It's a non-cash write-off. And there are nuances to it, of course. So check with your accountant, check with your CPA, because it does phase out, but you can get it back. You can be a real estate professional. There are ways. Okay. So, listen to my podcast where I've interviewed CPAs for more on this, and check with your own tax advisor. Okay. But the basic idea is this. Okay. And I wish I had my whiteboard here because it's really better to demonstrate on a whiteboard. When you buy a property, there's two components you're buying. You're buying land and you're buying improvement, the house sitting on the land. Okay. And the land never goes away. So the IRS doesn't allow you to depreciate it. But the improvement does go away because eventually the house will fall to the ground. It will be of no economic value. And so when it does that, you would be able to take a deduction for the cost of the structure of the house. But instead of doing that all at once, the IRS says you can do it on a schedule where you can depreciate it every year over the course of years for 27.5 years. So basically, if you have, and pull out your calculator, folks, okay, let's do the math here. Let's do the math. I've got the live stream going on my phone here. So I'm going to cut that off and pull out a calculator. So, say, for example, just follow this example. You buy a property, you go to jasonhartman.com and you buy a property for $180,000. And the equation there is that 150,000 is the improvement. That's the value of the house, of the construction of the house. And the land is 30,000. So 180 is 30,000 for land plus 150,000 for improvement or house sitting on land. Land, not depreciable. It'll always be there. It'll always have value. House, depreciable because it eventually will just fall apart. The IRS allows you to depreciate over 27.5 years. So what are we going to do? We're going to take our trusty calculator right here, and we're going to type in 150,000, the value of the improvement sitting on the land. Okay. And we're going to divide, we're going to push the divide key. Whoops. And then we're going to divide it by what? 27.5.
27.5.
7.5 divide equals, that's the number right there, folks. Okay. So it's, gosh, I can't get this in the right spot for you. Okay. It's $5,454 per year. Okay.
Yep.
So this 50 rounded off to $5,500 a year is a tax deduction that you can potentially take. It again depends on your income, and
It depends.
it does phase out, but you can get it back, and it's complicated. Okay. So just, yeah. But here's the thing about this. This is what's exciting. Normally, if you want a tax deduction, you've got to write a check for something, right? You've got to donate money to charity, and that could be deductible. Or if you have a business, you got to spend money on your business to take a deduction. But here, you're getting a deduction when the property might well be appreciating in value, giving you positive cash flow, and everything's going great, and you're still getting a write-off. Why do you think these very wealthy people can pay very little or even no tax? Because they've got a bunch of real estate. It's the most tax-favored asset class in America. The most tax-favored asset class in America. And by the way, you're going to learn a little bit about the tax game on this webinar that is on your screen. You're going to learn about estate planning, asset protection, and saving on taxes. Just go check out that webinar. It's totally free, jasonhartman.com/protect.
Also, Jason, I just did that almost exact same number calculation with a client recently. And a couple of things that you teach is we should be investing in low land value markets. Our markets, you gave that example once on a podcast of your house in Newport Coast or somewhere where the land value was so high and the improvement value was low. Our markets are the opposite. The land value is low, the improvement value is high, so our depreciation value is greater. The truth is, you can't really see the benefits until you do your taxes. That's when you really see it.
I'm so glad you said that. And that's why people should really go to propertytracker.com and subscribe to the Property Tracker software, because a lot of people with real estate, they think they're losing sometimes when they're actually winning. They just don't know how to do the math right. And then they go to they think like the whole year, oh, this property I bought, it's just not that great. And then they go to their accountant to get their taxes done, and they're like, wow, this is awesome. Or they sell it and they think, wow, it's just like that was all working behind the scenes in the background for me for the last 5 years, and I didn't even realize the benefits it was giving me. So yeah, that's phenomenal.
Someone wrote a comment. This is great. The one thing Jason has in common with Bernie Sanders is he says the same thing for years and years and years. Yes, then the difference being what Bernie Sanders says will cost you money, what Jason says will make you money. That's the big difference.
I don't want to think I have anything in common with Bernie Sanders.
But Bernie Sanders has 3 houses, somehow.
I know he's a man of the people, Evan,
on his
those aren't rentals, those are vacation homes. Those are second, third homes for him.
Jeez.
All right. Hey, folks, we got to wrap it up. I got to walk the dog. I got to have lunch, and I'm sure Evan has stuff to do too. But I want to close. I want to share something with you today. And Evan, by the way, we'll do a future live stream. It's certainly on the podcast and the YouTube channel, covering the Hartman Risk Evaluator.
Yes.
Okay? And that will cover this land versus improvement and how to really really massively reduce risk when investing in property. It's just a fantastic thing, and it's something it took me 19 years to discover. It's just a fantastic tool. So we'll do a show on that, okay? And it's already on the podcast. If you go to jasonhartman.com and you use the search engine there and you just search risk evaluator, you'll find the podcast episodes on that. If you go on the YouTube channel, you'll find videos about it and all that kind of stuff. But you ready to wrap this up? Because I want to wrap it up with a thought from the late great Earl Nightingale here.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. And someone asked, is your live stream daily? Or no, it's not daily. We do every Sunday. We have coffee talk at 11 Eastern.
Coffee talk, yeah.
Talk. But occasionally Jason will jump online and do the intro for the podcast live.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can catch that. But it's not really daily. The podcast is 5 days a week, though.
Yeah, the Creating Wealth podcast is Monday through Friday. Okay.
Yeah.
And listen, you don't need it to be Monday through Friday because there are 1,579 episodes in the back catalog you can listen to.
That's right. That's right. No, let's hear from Earl Nightingale.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. And folks, I just want to say thanks for all the great questions and comments today. It's really, really awesome. And like Evan said, we do an impromptu live stream, usually a couple of times a week. But the scheduled one is Sunday mornings. Okay, that's the regular one. So this is this awesome book by Earl Nightingale. It's out of print now, but you can buy a used one. This is a used one I got. I've purchased so many copies of this book over the years and given it to people. It's called Earl Nightingale's Greatest Discovery. Earl Nightingale died back, I think it was March 25th, 1989. And he was one of my big mentors that really changed my life. He's a great philosopher and such. So I just read a little passage from his book that's really awesome because, Evan, as we've talked today, you brought up, things about like making decisions, about taking risk, and sometimes it's counterintuitive, right? Like what people consider to be a risk is actually the least risky thing.
Right.
And what's considered to be, risky is or not risky is really risky. Right. So, it's complicated. So anyway, he says, and this is toward the end of the book, he says, the distinguished Dr. Abraham Maslow put it this way: if you deliberately plan to be less than you are capable of being, then I warn you that you will be unhappy for the rest of your life. You'll be evading your own capacities, your own possibilities. And let me add this. This is Earl Nightingale talking now. And let me add this. If you think you can succeed in a large way and play it safe at the same time, you are sadly mistaken. Success takes risk. It takes full commitment. You go out on a limb, so to speak, and take your chances alone. The warm, comfortable, huddling masses must be left behind, along with the old neighborhood and the small dreams. Risk and success are at opposite ends of the same balancing beam. You cannot have one without the corresponding weight of the other. Risk ups the ante, raises the greens fee, and limits the membership, but it makes playing more fun, and you seldom have to wait in line anymore. Then he goes on. The late motion picture producer Mike Todd put it well. He said, being broke is a temporary situation. Being poor is a state of mind. Who has success in America or Canada or Mexico or Peru or in France or West Germany or Japan or anywhere else in the world? Those who have taken charge of their lives and are directing them to their own best use. Who does not have success? Those persons who have not taken charge of the directions of their lives, but have simply reacted to the environment in which they found themselves. They have simply become a part of it. Our environment at any stage of our lives is a mirror-like reflection of ourselves at that time. It may be a transitional stage, or as more often the case, a permanent statement of ourselves and the extent of our preparation and contribution. So it's just incredible. So let me just go back to that one part about risk and success, because I just love it, and we'll end with this. He says, risk and success are at opposite ends of the same balancing beam. You cannot have one without the corresponding weight of the other. Risk ups the ante, raises the greens fee, and limits the membership, but it makes playing more fun, and you seldom have to wait in line anymore. Isn't that phenomenal?
Phenomenal. So true.
Ev-
Jump in.
He just knows how to say it, doesn't he?
He is. That's
Yeah.
a beautiful book. I got that book on your recommendation, and I love that book.
Isn't it
Yeah.
good? I have read this book so many times. I
Yeah.
can't even tell you. It's just it's a fantastic book. So that's Earl Nightingale. All
Yeah.
right, folks. Thank you for joining us. Again, the next thing you can do to further your education is check out the webinar, jasonhartman.com/protect. And just go to the website, listen to the Creating Wealth podcast, and we will come see you on a live stream this week at who knows when, and then the YouTube channel. There's always more stuff on there for you. Okay, Evan, thank you so much for helping moderate and bring in some good questions and good thoughts. Really appreciate having you. And
So much fun to be with you.
Yep, and to everybody watching and listening, happy investing to all of you, and we will see you next time.